And joining us this time, Jack Berkman, Republican strategist and host of Behind the Curtain with Jack Berkman. Catch him every Saturday night on the Radio America Network and Sunday afternoons at 2 on WMAL here in the Washington area. Also, Mark Levine is a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. He's also the Democratic nominee for the 45th District in the Virginia House of Delegates. Gentlemen, Republican front-runner Donald Trump stirring the pot once again with yet another controversial phrase.
So you have a silent majority in this country that feels abused, that feels forgotten, that feels mistreated. And it's a term that hasn't been brought up in years, as you know. People haven't heard that term in many years.
Now, the term silent majority was originally used by former President Nixon as an appeal to white voters during the civil rights movement. Now, Trump making it his own. Jack, your party has had a difficult time recruiting minorities, and at the risk of being a nattering nabob of negativity, does that kind of rhetoric worry you?
Well, I don't think Trump intended it, David, in a racial context. I think the issue is he's referring to 68, and the analogy to 68 might be right on. The country was tired of the Great Society in 1968. They were tired of years and years of liberalism and giveaways. Nixon came in. He vowed to shut that down. He vowed to stop lawlessness. We're seeing lawlessness on the southwest border. So I think Trump is very right to use that term. I don't think he used it in a racial context. And I think 2016 might end up being very much like 1968.
It's just one of those things, though, that it's inextricably linked to Richard Nixon. And when he was talking about the silent majority, there was very little doubt to whom he was specifically addressing those remarks.
I mean, this is something that he said hasn't been heard in a very long time. So he was specifically referencing Richard Nixon when he said it. And listen, the Tea Party is hardly silent. They've been very active. The right wing is hardly silent. So whether he was appealing to racial appeals, who knows? You'll have to ask Donald Trump. But he's pretty good at dog whistles. And I think he knows which dog whistles he uses.
We should differentiate here, because I don't think that's necessarily fair. The right wing of the Republican Party and the Tea Party are not necessarily the same thing. And I think
right.
You have...
That's why I don't think he's referring to them.
The Tea Party has been conspicuously silent on Donald Trump so far.
It's going to be hard, Dave. If they try to brand Trump a racist, I think that's a very hard sell. I don't think the majority of swing voters will see him that way. I certainly don't think Republican voters, we're already seeing him up over 25, 30%. When you're over 30% in Republican primary polls, that indicates that you're appealing to a broad mass of Republican voters. But I think even in a general election, assuming he's the nominee, if Democrats want to try to brand him some kind of racist, I don't think that works. I think Trump has a history that speaks otherwise. I am really starting to think the primary, Dave, could be on the Democratic side. I'm not sure Republicans have much of a primary left at this point.
Mark, what about that? Because if you take, for instance, the two leading candidates in the GOP side of things right now, between Donald Trump and
Ben
Carson, you have the outsiders.
Right.
Polling more than the following six candidates.
Right. I think what that shows,
what is that?
It shows that even the Republicans are upset with the Republicans and the way they've acted in Congress. They don't like Mitch McConnell. They don't like John Boehner.
Yeah.
They don't like basically them trying to shut the government down every chance they can. It shows that even the Republicans are really angry with their leadership, so they appeal to a bunch of clowns like right. Donald Trump.
You're right, but there's a big caveat here. You're 100% right. But Trump is bringing all those angry Republicans together, and he's the first person to be able to do that since Ronald Reagan in the 1980s.
Go, Donald, go, then, because I can't think of an easier person for Hillary Clinton to beat.
Oh,
so
I wish
Donald well. I wish Donald well.
And Jack makes a good point there, because they said the same thing about Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan was a governor of California. Ronald Reagan had a long political history before he ran for president.
The whole thing this time is the outsider aspect of things. People have had it up to here with Washington on both sides of the political divide.
No, I don't think, not on the Democratic side. I think Americans are angry at the Republican Congress.
So then what's the deal with Bernie Sanders then all of a sudden?
Oh, I think Bernie Sanders is new, but he's hardly an outsider. He's new in the sense of a national figure, but Bernie Sanders has been a senator for
You don't think he's trying to shake up the Democratic Party pretty fundamentally?
You know this very well.
No, I think what he's doing is he's showing that there's a lot of support for looking out for working class people in the Democratic Party, and I think his rallies show that. But
it's very
his
clear
ideas,
to me.
the difference
Bernie
between
Sanders
him and Hillary Clinton isn't that great. Both of them care very much about middle class and working class voters. Bernie Sanders has a stronger rhetoric because he's a socialist.
Okay,
it's
Jack,
becoming very clear clear that even the New York Times is reporting that Democratic leaders all over the country are fundamentally unhappy with Hillary Clinton. They don't like the way she handles email. They don't like anything about her. They're candidate shopping. They're almost to the point where they're ready to look at people like Howard Schultz,
Jack,
the Starbucks
you describe
CEO.
your party, I'll describe mine, okay? I know your party likes Donald Trump. Good for them. My party likes Hillary Clinton very much, and she's going to be our nominee.
Well, we'll see on both of those things, I think. Gentlemen, to make matters worse, conservative commentator Ann Coulter had this to say when she gave an opening speech at a Trump rally earlier this week.
I love the idea of the Great Wall of Trump. I want to have a 2-drink minimum, make it a big worldwide tourist attraction, and everyday live drone shows whenever anyone tries to cross the border.
Jack, Ann Coulter has been a bomb thrower from way back. That doesn't represent your party, does it?
No, I'm not sure. I think I kind of agree with it, Dave. I'll be honest with you. The American public at large is ready to have the problem at the southwest border fixed. I think there's a broad feeling, and it goes way beyond Republicans, that you have a lot of people basically just invading the country. And this business with Obama paying for children coming over the border, the great mass of Americans, middle-class Americans, are tired of this. Trump has tapped into anger over immigration issues. He's made the issue his own. You even see Jeb Bush struggling to get back into the issue. Yeah, Jeb Bush can't do it. Rubio can't do it. They all want to get back in. They can't. Trump has captured the issue.
And the
I
next
think he's
stop
going
is
to
to
win
have
with
the
it.
Coliseum, where we throw Mexican Americans to the lions, I suppose. Ann Coulter is a bomb thrower. She's a performance artist. She makes her living off of saying ludicrous and offensive things. And I think it's fitting that she's supporting a man who also makes his living out of saying ludicrous and offensive things. They belong together.
The difference being, though, there seems to be suddenly some traction with Donald Trump. Ann Coulter has always been sort of the freak show, and I use that term advisedly in the Republican Party. She says those things to get notoriety, and it works for a while, but then she goes away.
And that's exactly what's going to happen to Donald Trump.
Are you
saying these things to get
sure about that?
notoriety?
Because there are a lot of Republicans right now that thought exactly that same thing about 2 months ago, and they're right now, they've got his tire tracks all over.
The election is 14 months away. Around this time 4 years ago, I believe Michelle Bachmann was leading it, or maybe someone like Herman Cain. I
Mark,
mean, come on,
was,
no
but
one
you have to
takes
understand something.
this seriously. If Donald Trump is the nominee, no one will be more pleased than myself.
You have to understand
but I don't
something,
think he'll
Mark.
be the nominee.
I can tell you, just looking at the news cycle between now and the first of the year, I don't see any other Republican, and I'm not here to endorse Trump. I'm not endorsing anyone, although I'm warming up to Trump. I don't see any other Republican even coming close to getting into this unless there is some tectonic, massive event to bring one of the others out of the pack. I think almost all of the others are completely forgotten. Trump has captured the news cycle. The media can't sell anybody but Trump on the Republican side.
I think the two of you say things that you should like Donald Trump.
It's one of those things, Mark. I think the Democratic Party ignores Donald Trump at its own peril right now. That may be brave talk right now, but in another 6 months, it might be a different story altogether. Let's switch gears a little bit now, if we can. Carly Fiorina, the Republican presidential candidate, said the RNC, the Republican National Committee, is rigging the game by not letting her on the main stage during the next debate, the CNN debate. Jack, the GOP is constantly having to defend itself against the war on women, the stereotype. Shouldn't Fiorina have a spot at the adults table here?
Well, she should have it if she earns it. She has to. We have a very objective standard. I think the standard Fox used is good. I think what CNN's doing is good. You have to earn it. You have to have a certain percentage. Fiorina's doing a good job. If I were her advisor, I'd advise her to do the same thing, Dave. She's trying to capture. She's the only woman in the race.
Yeah.
She's got to use that card. She's got to use it at every turn. She's doing a good job of that. Does she have a chance? No, but she's doing a good job keeping her name in the news. Remember, even people like Chris Christie, Scott Walker, even Jeb Bush, they're simply falling out of the news cycle at this point. Those campaigns aren't even being covered.
Mark, let me ask you, if I can, before you respond there, because I put yourself in Carly Fiorina's camp right now. If you're running the campaign, you're doing, she had a very good performance in the first debate, it kind of got people to have a second look at her. How do you get people to take a third look? How do you get her into that debate?
Well, I think you make the argument that the polls since the first debate have shown her way up, and you ask CNN to only use those polls. That's a fair thing to do. I don't think it's right to say that she should be there because she's the only woman running for the Republican nomination.
Yep.
Listen, if she had half the support Hillary Clinton did on the Democratic side, she'd be leading the Republican field. Her support simply isn't that high, so you got to go with the post-poll debates, not the fact that she's a woman.
Enough with the Republicans already. Let's talk about some Democrats, can we? Vice President Joe Biden, after that impromptu meeting with Senator Elizabeth Warren and the hire of a brand new communications director with campaign experience, by the way, the talk of a Biden campaign reached fever pitch on Wednesday. The Veep himself told top Democrats at the Democratic National Committee meeting he was assessing whether or not he had the emotional fuel for a White House bid.
If I were to announce to run, I have to be able to commit to all of you that I would be able to give it my whole heart and my whole soul. And right now, both are pretty well banged up, and we're trying to figure out that issue.
Mark, should the Veep make a go of it?
Well, I think he's right. He has every reason to have the emotional state banged up. He just lost Beau Biden in a horrific tragedy. Truly a wonderful person.
Sure.
And I don't think he has it. I think actually he's trying to let many of us who really love Joe Biden, let us down easy by having us recognize that he's got to spend time mourning right now. And I think that's what he's going to choose.
Mark, you're really reaching the point. If you look at the numbers, Hillary Clinton's been in national politics for 30 years. In terms of politics, Trump is a relative newcomer. Trump is within 6 points or 8 points of Hillary Clinton. That's terrible news for the Democratic Party. Here's what's worse.
It means nothing 14 months
Here's what's worse for Hillary. If you want to keep, it sounds like you're endorsing Hillary. If you want to keep her,
no, I like Joe Biden.
Here's the problem. She can't surface without getting negative coverage. She cannot enter the news media in any capacity at any time. She came out with her big student loan program in August.
Which was actually pretty amazing. Debt-free college. That's something
that
surface
Americans without negative attention.
That's something that Democrats and Republicans support. I think we need to talk more about policy. I think Donald Trump tends to, soak the energy out of the room.
But you can't if she's the nominee. That's the problem.
Of course you can. Listen, she didn't do anything wrong. There was no policy about emails. This is entirely a mountain over a molehill, and I really don't think anyone cares about it.
Even if that's true, you think that, I don't think that, but let's assume that's true. Even if that's true, my point is the negative coverage won't go away. She can't escape the issue.
Hillary Clinton has had negative coverage ever since Whitewater in 1993. The Republicans have been trying to take her down. That's not unusual. They always try to take down our nominees. If Joe Biden is the one that's there, they'll try to take him down too. That's just what they do. That's politics.
And Mark, that's going to have to be our last word. We could do this for the next 24 hours right now, and it would be fun. I expect we'll be doing it again. Jack Berkman, Republican strategist. Mark Levine, Democratic strategist. Thanks to you both.
Dave, thank you, Mark.
Dave.
Thank you, guys.